half.
It's kind of like getting to inning one, but it counts. You played in the game. All
Wait.
right.
Oh no, 7.5 is what you can call a game without rescheduling it. And it's
I think a 6 inning
or
game is, or five full innings is an official game.
oh,
But
really?
yeah, but the point is for you, for your consecutive streak, just showing up is good
Sure.
enough.
I
Let's
know.
go live.
Oh, right. Oh, live. Oh, hello.
Live. Yeah, because it's kind of like time to go live. Oh, I forgot to tweet that we were going to be live in 30 minutes or whenever. Um,
I started making Christmas cookies or cookie holiday cookies, and it'll be a challenge. I don't even like desserts or sweet stuff at all. And today I made these brandy snaps that were so good that I'm like, these might never make it out of the house and into this like into the box of um
all right, wait. We got to do the whole going live thing. I'm gonna have a conversation with the folks at YouTube about the blue go live button.
I know.
Why
I
it
know people at
takes
YouTube. I should
longer to light up than the one on Facebook, which just goes live as soon as you start on Crowdcast, or the one on Twitter, which recognize it instantly. There's no latency, but the blue go live button is still not blue.
Really?
No, it's still not blue. And it's still not blue.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You are having hardship today.
Well, it is what it is. I'm going to refresh the page because today is, I haven't had one of those days where the blue go
I know.
live button is mistreating us, but today is one of the
I can't
days.
believe how bad your camera quality used to be. Like I remember not discernibly seeing your face really for a very long time. And then like one day you were like in sharp. I was like, oh my gosh. Like Ben has like a day's stubble. I can like see it.
So I don't think that's camera quality so much as it is um, uh, internet bandwidth,
Oh, I know. I meant when you got your like Verizon all fixed and stuff.
which is not solving the problem of the
Oh, and
blue go live
oh
button,
yeah. I know. I was talking
which
about
is
something different.
still not blue.
Huh.
Hmm.
Hmm.
We have a problem. I mean, we could just not go live on YouTube.
I mean, yeah. Or
Um,
do it when like try again in 5 minutes and just start.
huh, this is weird.
That is weird.
This I don't think it's ever taken this long. Let me just make sure the code is right, because I would hate to be like uh, one. Put in the right code. Make sure we've got the right code in there. And oh, I see the problem.
Oh, really? How
The
does
code,
this
the
possibly
code.
change?
No. This I typed in the wrong code. I think.
Weird.
Um, let's see now whether it works. Um, and it's still not blue. Well,
Well, let it
I
go.
think I think we should let it go today. But let's send a note to the our YouTube feed is not working today, folks. Please send complaints to YouTube and join us on Crowdcast today instead. And let's just send them the Crowdcast link and be done with YouTube. All right. Um, well,
Yeah.
I guess we can say then, and we're live.
And have been for like the last couple of minutes. Yes.
Yeah, that's hardly a surprise to anybody here, but it is Saturday, December 5th, 2020, 5:04 p.m. We were right on time, and YouTube fucked things up today. It was their fault, and I think we should all be appropriately angry at them. Forget the radicalizing populations thing. Forget the, feeding people, getting people addicted thing. Just be pissed that YouTube has failed us today. We're not allowed to have fun anymore, and apparently we're not allowed to be on YouTube either. But in lieu of fun, Kate's wearing a dog shirt and is about to have a nor'easter and get her power knocked out. So give us an update, Kate.
Yeah. It's Saturday. Was bleak and driving rain for most of the day, and I started baking holiday cookies, and that was delicious. And that is like literally all I've done today, besides a bunch of reading that I was behind on. And yeah, Ben, what did you do today that you've never done before today?
I did something pretty interesting that I've never done before, which is that I edited a piece that was inspired by an In Lieu of Fun episode, written by an In Lieu of Fun audience member,
Oh,
and it both grew out of the show and was produced by a member of the audience, and we are going to publish it on Lawfare sometime next week.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's all you're gonna say? You're not gonna say what it's about or who it is?
I don't think I am, because the audience member in question right now isn't here.
Okay.
And I don't think it would be, I don't think I should, it's not my story to tell, really.
Fair
And
enough. But
so,
interesting. Cool.
I think but it was an interesting, it actually grew out of the episode with Emily Bazelon.
No.
And so I think when it goes live on Lawfare, it's a pretty significant piece of work, actually. And when it goes live on Lawfare, maybe we should discuss it with its author.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love that. That sounds cool. Did you get any rain in DC at all? Like, what was it like down there?
It was rainy, yes, and kind of blustery yesterday. It's been sort of off and on cloudy, but not raining today.
Oh, okay. I don't know if there was kind of bad weather all over the Northeast, but yeah, no. I think that we are not scheduled up for this week, are we?
No, do we have anything scheduled for this week?
Yeah, we have Monday scheduled.
What's Monday?
Monday is Mark Lemley.
Ah, okay. And my Carla Kilstead has agreed to come on, but we have not nailed down a time. So we basically have any time. We have 4 days to fill this week.
Yeah. I think where did I put the list? Oh no, I copied it somewhere. I have the list of people that were shared with us by there that is. That was shared to us by the group of people that they wanted to have come on. Do you want to pick up going through it?
Sure, let's go through some more. Well, so should we start back at the top, because we've done some and we can cross others off because they're refusing or because they haven't answered. So
Sure. Susan Landau.
right, I can follow up again with Susan Landau. We may be past, she was on a deadline crunch. And told me to follow up in a few weeks. It's now been a few weeks, so I can follow up again.
Okay. I'm doing ContraPoints. That's still ongoing. I'm waiting to hear back. Dan Carlin.
So Dan Carlin has not responded to any of my requests, but I will keep bugging him.
And we did Jen. That was really fun.
Which
To,
Jen?
Mirchirka.
Oh,
Mirchirka. Mirchirka. Yes.
Merchia.
Mirchia. Thank you. And I got the ch sound in there, but that was awesome. So we did that. Juliet Kaim.
Juliet Kaim should be doable. Uh, I will put her on my list of people to contact.
Okay. Heather Cox Richardson. That was Anne was going to help us with that. We can ask Anne how that's going. Seth Kotler. I was going to do that one. I should highlight that so I make sure that I do that. And then Philip Sands.
Philippe Sands. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I will write to him.
Okay.
See if he wants to hear from me. But, all right.
Okay, and then there was a whole bunch of others that we kind of said yes, but they like have to come on later for various reasons, or they wouldn't be great for the show, which were like, I'll just skip ahead, but Bob Bauer, Rosa Brooks, Carol Cadwalader, Chris Wiley, Colin Woodard, Tim Wu. There's just like a bunch of kind of people, and then I think we got basically down to Ellie Mistal and Ellie Honig. Was that like kind of where we stopped
Yeah, I think
off?
that's roughly where we stopped.
Yeah. So I don't know who Ellie Honig is.
Legal writer, former prosecutor. I can reach out to him.
Okay. Barry Friedman. We've got we've had him on before. I can definitely have him on again. Kevin Cruz.
Yeah. We have a good Twitter relationship. Never met though.
Okay.
I can definitely.
Julia Marcus, who's a Harvard epidemiologist. I'm happy to try to. I don't know her, but I'm happy to try to reach out to her. Yep. Ben Einreich, Rosa Brooks' brother, apparently.
I have never. I don't know him. I know of. I mean, his mother is their mother. I used to know once upon a time.
Okay.
But what is his thing?
I have no idea. Doesn't say. I don't know him either.
Right, well.
Yeah, I know.
Hi, who are you other than Rosa Brooks's brother, and why are we having you on the show?
Yeah, I know. This is just the list that like the all of the group chat came up with that are like the so they might not. I mean, it might seem like someone of significance. To one person or a few people, and then Stephen Wertheim, the Quincy Institute. I don't know.
Interesting. I know the organization, and which also employs my old colleague Anil Shaleen. I can look into that.
Okay. Adam Tooze.
That's a great idea.
Okay.
Do you
want me to do that?
Yeah, I don't know Adam at all.
I don't know him either, but I think we're in the same kind of like.
But I think he's really, really smart.
Okay.
Who else we got on the list?
Asha Rangappa.
Asha Rangappa. She's up at Yale. I can reach out to Asha.
Okay. What does she do?
She is a professor, former FBI agent, and uh, legal commentator of and she teaches uh, between Yale and Wesleyan, I think. Um,
Cool. Let's see, David Ignatius.
oh, Anne Kornhauser is offering to reach out to Stephen Wertheim, Kevin Kruse, and Adam Tooze, which is great. We
Yeah,
should definitely take her up on that.
great.
Um, uh, Sorry, who did you last mention?
Um, David Ignatius.
Well, I know David Ignatius very well, and I'm happy to reach out to him. Uh, uh, he has been a little difficult sometimes about getting him on the podcast, so I don't imagine he'll be any easier about this. But we know each other reasonably well, and we're quite friendly,
Okay,
and I like David and admire his work very much. Um,
cool. Um, Sungmin Kim.
I don't know her at all,
Me either.
but I like her work very much, and I would be happy to have her on the show, um, and um, I'm happy to reach out to her.
Okay,
Um,
I can also do that. Um,
and I have also not forgotten Anne Kornhauser's excellent point that we should, which was not a specific guest suggestion, but a topic suggestion that we should do something on uh, public employee situation in nationally in COVID crisis. I think it's a really important and under discussed subject, and so I will I will work on that. I don't know whether the right person is an economist or a somebody like your friend Magaziner who does sort of state government budgets, um, but uh, somebody is doing good thinking on this subject, and it's a very important subject.
Great. Um, uh, Ayesha Rasco.
Who?
I don't, Ayesha Rasco.
That's interesting. I do not know that name at all.
I don't either. I can put it in the chat.
Um,
I could be butchering its pronunciation, but this is the spelling that I was given. I
I do
don't
not know that
I don't
person.
know that person either.
So toy tanks. The problem with the public employee model of of this issue is that if you get a single any given public employee, you know, is going to look at something from the issue from the point of view of their particular type of public employee, a police officer, a teacher, a public university professor, right? These are highly coned existences, sort of stovepiped existences, whereas somebody focused on the policy issue of public employees in this time and state budgets is more likely to be thinking about the range of the problem from from sanitation workers to uh, construction, corrections officers to teachers to professors, right? This is a hell of a range, and it's as Anne has pointed out in the chat, it's an entire sectoral problem, and I think actually the point of view of the individual workers actually is probably inherently narrow. And so I'm interested, and I think her original idea was to get somebody to talk about the sort of gestalt problem from a policy and economic point of view.
Yeah.
Though she can correct me if she was thinking of something else.
Mark Polymeropoulos, we did
We
see how
did that
I
one. Yeah.
um
By the
Larry.
way, everybody do notice the New York Times story today about that issue. They released the National Academy of Sciences report that he was alluding to and said existed, and it does in fact say that the most likely explanation for this is a directed energy weapon of some kind.
Can we have a conversation about this? Because it was baffling to me when I read this. And I guess like seeing him in the flesh, I also just found him, well, not in the flesh, but as in the flesh as we can get these days. Oh, by the way, we're kind of basically done. There was like one other person, James Hamlin, who like I can reach out to, but the request was around his request for people to cancel Thanksgiving. And so now that that's done, he would just generally be a good guest, but we can try to get him. I think that it would be fun to talk for a second about kind of some of the guests from this week because we had a bunch of really interesting people on and in a bunch of topics I wasn't expecting there to be such like kind of not controversy, but like kind of just be kind of hard hitting and fascinating.
We had a good week, but before we get to that, let's finish planning the show for this week coming
Okay.
Because there's one other thing that we agreed to do on Twitter the other day in discussion with Mike Godwin, which is to bring back Pugilism Week for a day and spar with you and Mike Godwin. I think I get a sparring teammate.
Sure, you can pick your teammate, Carrie Goldberg.
I think I want Carrie Goldberg, both because I think actually
I'll text her and I'll text both of them and ask them if they're up for this.
And no, Godwin's in the thing in the chat and he's up for it. He already said that on Twitter. And I think, first of all, I think in a brawl, Carrie and I would take you and Godwin pretty badly, actually.
Wow. I actually think Carrie would like kick my ass.
I feel pretty good about like a fist fight with Godwin. I mean, I can bring him in if he disagrees. I think I could take my Godwin.
You never specify, by the way, if like you're going to take Putin and his tigers in like.
No, the tigers do not. I don't get to bring weapons. He doesn't get to bring tigers.
Okay.
Besides, I don't fight with tigers. That's not fair.
Okay.
They have really big teeth.
Yes, they do. Or like the one tooth. I'll never forget the saber tooth, the one in the middle, the one saber.
But it's slightly off center, which is the thing that makes it the saber tooth anchovy
even better.
All right, so important thing. So should we do that Tuesday?
I'm asking Carrie right now, but that's fine with me.
All right, Godwin, are you okay if with a 2:30 debate, Pugilism Week for a day on Tuesday?
I don't know why I'm like expecting Mike to like say yes to something when he's not actually here.
He's here. He's right here in the audience. But... so Mike, signal your assent or wimping out in the chat, and we'll consider that booked for Tuesday if you assent. Otherwise, I'll have to. Tuesday is not good. All right, name a day that's not Monday or Tuesday that's good for you.
So yeah. Anyways, that will be fun. What? Is there anything explicitly illegal about Trump's tweet around 2:30 and his threats? Like, I mean, they're just threats.
It's too dumb to be
right? That's kind of what I was thinking. Is that like you laugh, but it's so terrifying.
He says Gry Day, which
there's no such day as Gry Day.
I assume means Friday.
That's a clever dodge.
Friday. All right, I'm totally down for Pugilism Week on Friday. I get Carrie if she's free on Friday. If she's not free on Friday, I'll handle you both myself.
That is. I like that you just drain. Did you just drain your gross drink or the good one? Oh, the good one.
No, it was straight rye whiskey and it was delicious.
That was a much better choice.
All right. We are done planning the show for the week. Shall we? You want to talk? You want to debrief on last week's shows?
Yeah. I just was going to say, to start off with, I was going to say about Mark that I found him to be pretty interesting and incredible. And I don't really understand he's, why what he's suggesting is so crazy if we know it's a technology that exists. Like, is the part about it being crazy just that Russia would attack someone as senior as him in the CIA? Like, that just seems like completely bonkers. Or is it that it did it in such a weird way? Because
Okay,
like
so
all of it seems very like, I don't know, it seems like something that would happen in a spy movie to me, but that's
yeah,
about the level of odd.
so there's a few aspects of this, and some of them require a little bit of sort of spy versus spy background.
Mm.
Um, the thing that is different from this world in the in the movies is that as a general matter there is a working unspoken gentleman's agreement and has been for a very long time between the US and the Russians that we don't target each other's spies.
Right.
And that doesn't mean we don't spy on them. We arrest and sometimes execute their agents. We expel them from the countries. We may take retaliatory actions against them, but we generally don't target them with force. And that's a pretty old rule. And the reason it exists is that both sides benefit from it. It's just a good common law working understanding that both communities' intelligence operations are favored if they have, respectful relations with one another and don't, you may try to hurt their operations, stop their operations. You may harass them. You may do you may make their lives unpleasant in certain respects, but you will also often meet them for drinks. And so in Mark's story, he goes to Moscow, um, and and the Russians ask him not to go, but they grant him the visa, and they meet with him, like formally meet with him. He goes to KGB or FSB or GRU or whichever agency he was dealing with headquarters, and they have a conversation and they reiterate, you shouldn't be here, we don't want you here, and then they target him with physical violence.
Why did they
Now,
let him in if they wanted to say that?
uh, again, it's totally unclear. And by the way, his response when is to ask Gina Haspel not to send a Christmas card to their leadership. That is like, they're hung up enough on the forms of these relationships that is a super hostile gesture. And in Julia's story, they're furious about this.
Okay,
So
that makes more, I remember that part of the story, but I like it didn't make sense, but now I get
so
it.
yeah, so the first thing that's like this rule is a real thing, and it's why there are not a lot more dead CIA officers and a lot of dead Russians. And we generally know who one another is, and it would be bad for both if we started killing each other. So the first answer to your question is it's highly irregular because it's a use of force against the opponent, and we don't usually use force against the opponent. Now, why is it? So the second aspect of it and is what's so exotic about the specific use of force, and the answer is, well, anytime you have a large number of people presenting certain set of symptoms and you don't have literally you don't have a smoking gun, right? This isn't like the polonium poisoning where you
Right.
can actually measure radiation coming off of his body, right? He's ingested the stuff. And then you can actually trace in England where there is polonium residue. The stuff has a half-life, right? And you can figure out which teacup it was in. So this is not like that, right? You don't know what it is. And when large numbers of people first started reporting any group of symptoms, and it's not traceable, it's not visible on any of the scans that they initially did, the first instinct that you reach for is kind of mass hysteria, which is a thing. It does happen. There are a lot of people who believe they've been abducted by aliens, and, not all of them are totally nuts, although some of them are totally nuts. And so I do think that a certain period of skepticism about it was probably justified. What they're doing now, as the things become more and more common, there's some clear scientific evidence that something happened, is indefensible. And I think they have backed off of it now that Julia's story has come out. So I think
that explains a lot.
That's kind of the explanation, at least as I understand it.
Yeah. So, like at the system level, I guess what I'm kind of hearing is the reason the story was treated this way is because there was just absolutely no evidence of harm besides his reports of harm, and or like anything even happening at all. And what he was kind of alleging to happen would be so aberrant and kind of not aberrant and have such strong diplomatic implications that it seems curious why they would go to such trouble to do something like this in the first place and hide all evidence of it and everything else.
Except, of course, for the point that I raised with him yesterday, which is I don't think it's that abhorrent for them at all.
That's what I heard you guys saying.
We have video of them physically assaulting a CIA officer on the steps of the U.S. Embassy, and he's clawing to get in. So we know they're attacking CIA officers. We know they're being very aggressive with certain diplomats. And by the way, they are flamboyantly killing other people using highly exotic means. I mean, I don't know if Tomas is in the audience today, but, ask him about what they're doing with, two Estonian government officials or what they have done. And so, I don't think the idea that, the Russians wouldn't do this is just which Russian intelligence service is morally above it? And so all you have here, it seems to me, is the exotic nature of the weapon that we don't know exactly what it is, or we're sort of reverse engineering what it must be based on symptoms, and that's tricky, and you can get things a little bit wrong that way.
And I don't want to get super philosophical, but I will say that the other thing that makes what they did strange is that part of an assassination attempt, right? Really is you want people to know who did it because it's a message, it's a communication. And so that's another part that's so strange here. In my opinion, is it isn't the type of thing, espionage is not the type of thing where you where people really don't know who people are, really don't know where people come from. I mean, maybe every once in a while that exists for a while, but as you said, everyone knows who all the agents are and what they're doing. And there's a lot that is known in that kind of world. And I guess that's just, just a little baffling to me.
So Tomas is here and has I've never spoken to him about it, but it's
sure.
It's
I'd
not
love to hear.
but the story isn't exactly secret. So I'm going to zap him in to tell whatever part of it he wants to talk about. These people don't play. And I think we should just be frank about that. The only question in my mind here is what the specific nature of the weapon is. So, Tomas, the floor is yours.
He can't hear us. This happens every time.
Come through.
We will talk to Tomas in the chat, and
Yeah.
he can talk to us verbally.
Do we, what should, maybe we need to prompt him as to what that we want him to tell this story specifically? Um, mm, mm, mm.
Look
Oh,
at the
now
chat.
now I hear you.
Now you hear us.
Now you
Okay,
can hear us?
great. So tell us the story of what the Russians did with your head of security.
It wasn't that of security, but he was. We had a huge problem with cigarette smuggling since cigarettes in Russia have very low or no taxes, and we have EU level taxes. So a pack of cigarettes is like $7. And it's like 25 cents in Russia. So there's a huge smuggling ring going on. And a guy was from the equivalent of our FBI, your FBI, was tracking down where all this smuggling was going. And while he was on the Estonian side of the border, Russian Spetsnaz came over and kidnapped them. I mean, they just took him on the Estonian side in a military style operation. And within 24 hours, he was in Lubyanka in Moscow from Estonia, which is far away. And basically, I mean, the theory is, I mean, this really has to do with like the criminal nature of that country. Is that basically the people were taking the FSB, their domestic security, was taking a cut from cigarette smuggling, but the way it works is like, okay, the last guy takes a cut, but he's got to give a cut up to his superior, and they were getting too close to the top, because otherwise someone investigating a smuggling case would not be taken to Lubyanka and charged with spying. And the alternative theory, we really did have a spy who we had arrested. And there is this distinction between people who are employees of the Russian secret services or people who just do it for money. I mean, so there are two classes of people. And if you do it for money, you're just a sleazebag in their eyes, or a prostitute. And if you do it because you're an employee, then you'll do anything to get them out. And so ultimately he was exchanged. But the really horrendous thing was that he was kidnapped on Estonian territory. I mean, compared to being shot in the head, as one person recently was in a Berlin park, they act with impunity outside the country. And this is something that, we saw. I mean, the big cases, the Skripals, that makes it into the news, but it's just sort of general behavior. You even had to give the still unresolved case of the founder of RT, who was, most people say, was beaten to death in Washington, D.C., but the official report, even from the FBI, was that he fell down.
He beat himself to death in a drunken stupor in the hotel next to the Brookings Institution.
Is this where we went and had drinks that one time?
Yeah.
I remember that story. You told me that, and I didn't believe you.
Said,
and then I read
we're having
all
drinks
about
in the hotel where
yeah, that was so crazy.
So one other question: do you have any doubt that this is some kind of spree of activity by the SVR or the GRU, or like, to me, the only serious question here is what's the nature of the specific weapon that they're using, not who's doing it. Do you think there's more to scratch your head about than that?
No, I think a number of people have said it, so it's nothing original. But basically, Russia is not a genuine threat. It doesn't, it thinks that by being really obnoxious, it has to be taken seriously. And that's a weird way for me to, I would think, to gain respect in the world, but that seems the way it the country seems, its leadership seems to try to get it. But I mean, killing people abroad, which presumably, I mean, you would know more than I, but in general, requires the assent of the head of state, is not something that elsewhere. I mean, you can. I mean, okay, Obama was quite clearly responsible for taking out Bin Laden, but I mean, this is kind of a policy that, I mean, if you really, I mean, or even the guy who has uncovered the doping of athletes. And it seems more that we'll do anything that they can do. I mean, they also sent a GRU team to hack into into WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency. So I mean, it's this bizarre obsession with respect and also cheating. I mean, it's just like, wow.
Can I just, I know we have an echo. Oh, thanks, Ben. I'm just really confused why there is this kind of unspoken understanding between intelligence operations. It seems like, wouldn't you think that it's like a canceling of they cancel each other out, and that, like, why would you engage in one openly but secretly and let the other engage in the other openly but secretly? It just seems like a ton of energy and resources. Why is this still like such a necessary part of everything? Maybe that's like so deeply naive or a bigger question, but I guess I just kind of like, if they're actually extensions of, like, if they're doing work that's going to lead to some type of like movement in defense or state or change in policies, it seems like that would really actually put them in fair game as agents of the state to have some type of, to treat them like soldiers or treat them like something else, and not as diplomats.
I mean, first of all, I think that the West has been fairly slow in sort of recognizing this is going on, and also, I mean, it is so. I mean, basically, after like reciprocal and mutual killings in the late 40s and in the early 50s, there was a kind of an agreement reached. Apparently, I don't know the details, but basically, we don't kill each other's people is the main thing. That, I mean, you can embarrass them, you can do all kinds of things, but you don't kill them. And as far as we can tell, I mean, this is something that has Russia unilaterally has withdrawn from this agreement, but it was, I mean, it was not a.
But I think I think it's actually a really interesting thing that they've done, because they and here, I think they're probably being very sophisticated, right? So they have seen the same documents that I've seen about what the United States considers lawful in its own conduct, which is to say, there are documents that say, if the person is a senior operational leader of Al Qaeda or an associated force, his targeting would be lawful under the laws of armed conflict, and he's actively planning stuff, we will target him, right? In other words, we will target legitimate military figures, but we will not target civilians. We will not target people for political criticism, right? And so we've released all this in OLC opinions. And so I think they know that their people will not suffer reciprocal retaliation. And they know that we have unilaterally disarmed in this regard. We may PNG a bunch of people. We may do economic sanctions against the country, but we're not actually going to shoot ray guns at their people. And so they know that this is kind of a one-way street.
Well, whenever you have these, I mean, I look a lot at the cyber side of things, and basically the problem is that the naive approach would be say, well, we can't do to them what they do to us, as say, disrupting elections, especially because they don't have real
Yeah, they don't
elections.
have
So it's not.
meaningful elections.
But I mean, you can do all kinds of other things, and I think that what really needs to be done by the U.S. government and other, at least NATO countries that have come under this kind of thing, is to develop a policy of really hurting them when they do this. But that does not mean killing people. Um, uh, but I mean, when you have, I mean, you're really dealing with this kind of mafioso mentality, which. I mean, it's a gang war from their view, and they're acting like it.
And the players that are, it would be the worst to affect, or that you're aiming to affect, that's like creating some type of policy to hurt people, probably are insulated from that type of any type of policy harm that you could do to them. And so, like, you end up hurting, kind of like inadvertently hurting, like, innocent people or civilians.
Oh, I think that I mean, really, I think what really the West liberal democracies need to do is come up with a real serious policy on really hurting the the oligarchs around
Yeah.
Putin financially. I mean,
Yes.
and some of it will require overstepping some of our own bounds. I mean, we have the principle, which Stalin did not follow, but children are not responsible for the deeds of their parents. But I would just simply, when you have Lavrov's daughter going to graduating Barnard, my sort of sister school, when you have Peskov's daughter similarly running around Paris and sending sort of all kinds of pictures on Instagram. Maybe these people shouldn't be allowed in the West. I mean, enjoy take your vacations in Colima.
I mean, I really think a crude policy that looks something like every time Russia does one of the following listed activities or something like it, we will freeze X millions of dollars of assets on the part of one of the following listed people. And we're not going to announce who it's going to be or what the assets are going to be. And of course, you can't say any of this because then you get into all kinds of due process issues. But just there should be a working understanding that we are going to exact prices against the regime adjacent figures in dollars. We're not going to seize anything. We're just going to freeze it. And it's going to be really crude and really simple. And you should understand that when you do one of these things, there is a direct financial cost. We're going to tell you how much it's going to cost you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are enough people who can hurt. I mean, this can be extended to merely killing, but also, I mean, you have real criminals like Firtash. I think the kid gloves approach has not worked basically, and if you have on the one side, you have the rule of law, and their approach is, let's see what we can do, whatever we can to subvert it. Well, maybe you have to find tougher measures, and I think something like what you suggested is good. I mean, certainly, even uncovering in the Panama Papers the money that Putin had, though it was not touched, was enough to send Putin utterly ballistic. But maybe just take it,
You could do an incredible fair housing policy
that
based on this, like every townhouse in Manhattan, half of London, just make it housing for the poor.
Change the law in the United States that allows anonymous shell companies to buy property, which led to the godfather of all mafiosis in Russia, Semyon Mogilevich, consigliere, apparently bought 2 apartments in Trump Tower already before 2016.
It'd be so great to put like 50 homeless people in Trump Tower.
Yes.
I mean, this is would be beautiful federal policy.
No,
All right, thank
he
you,
may never go
Tomas.
back there. Oh, one last thing. One last thing. Invite Alex Finley.
Oh, that's a great idea. I will put that on my list.
Alex Finley. Say Alex Finley. And so
Yeah.
invite Alex Finley. She's funny as hell.
Great.
And great.
I was just going to say that I think I had noticed that John Cipher was watching the conversation about that when Mark was here and he was making comments in the thing, and one of the things that he said in the chat was about letting all of these kind of oligarchs' kids come to Ivy League schools and like go to school, freezing assets and not letting their kids have like the privilege of like going to these schools and getting our credentials. And I think it seems like a super easy thing to do. I don't think there's no due process of like requesting Barnard not admit like, somebody's kid. But I mean,
So I don't think I don't think there's so I think you would have to figure out, prescribing families is a tough business, but I think having the State Department not issue visas, probably shouldn't put the burden on
yep.
on Barnard
Barnard.
to
Yeah.
corrupt its thing. But I don't see why is the State Department issuing visas for kids of oligarchs and
That's kind of
Russian government officials to come to the United States?
I mean, I will say though that like the fact that schools are so eager to take these. Keep in mind, Ben, that we have like 10 minutes left.
Yep. So these are our 3 questions for the
great.
day.
The taking the money of like these people, they know who these people are, and they bring them to the U.S. to study anyways. And then we throw fits when we find out like that like people took Epstein money or they took whatever. But like this is the type like this type of like black money is like everywhere or dark money is everywhere in philanthropy and in higher education. I don't know. It just kind of drives me nuts, like how much so it is. Sorry for going on about it.
Esther, the floor is yours, but I have to unmute you. There you go.
I'm not sure. Am I asking my question or talking about my topic suggestion?
You're doing whatever you want to do. The floor is yours, and that's what the phrase means.
I got my camera working again.
You look great.
Good to see you. Yeah, I like to.
Before
not wavy llines.
Yeah, but before I didn't have to worry about how I actually appeared, right?
You look great.
I guess I'm going to go to my personal question then, which is I am not a lawyer. I'm a scientist. And I read and listen to all this talk about legal issues. It's fascinating. It's intellectually stimulating. So sometimes I think of it like a jigsaw puzzle that actually can never be solved. You can never quite get that last piece in, and then sometimes it gets tossed up and rejumbled. Sometimes like a treasure hunt where you're kind of trying to find the treasure that will let you do what you want to do or stop someone else from doing something you don't want them to do. So I keep trying to find parallels in gaming situations. Does any of these sound like a description that that makes sense to you? Are there other games you would bring in? Is it very contextual?
Super interesting question. Kate, why don't you take a first crack at that?
No, you go first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the puzzle is a good metaphor for some aspects of law. Designing, figuring out what is the right rule is a little bit analogous to jigsaw puzzling. You're figuring out which piece will fit. I also think the old sort of law and economics approach of, finding the rule that works best is, that creates the greatest, what they would call economic efficiency, but what you might call aggregate happiness, that I think the legal realists and the law and economics people really were onto something there. Um, uh, I I don't know what the game is that refers to, but sort of maximizing common sense outcome. The thing that works best. I think of it almost as an engineering matter. What do you think, Kate? What are your favorite metaphors for this?
Yeah, I have a bunch of different ones. So, I also try to like, I have a scientific mindset as well, and like I approached the law with that, and I was very lost for most of law school because I kept kind of looking for, I kept kind of looking for the law to be organized in this way that would be reflect some type of like plan or methodology that was like evenly and consistently applied, and it just like simply doesn't, and it isn't, and it is, I think so. There's kind of that, but then I guess like at a certain level, I kind of look at the law and politics and all of these things is like one of those just super. It's like it's kind of like looking at a room, but like you could look. It depends on like which angle you're looking at the room from, all of the pieces that you see, or which ones are the most important to you, or like which ones like matter, if that makes any sense. And so I think that like if your goal is to like walk across the room, the most important thing is to know whether there's something in your path and like whether you can walk across the room easily or whatever. If like the goal is to get warm, it's like to see where like the heater is in the room or whatever. And all of these different approaches to the law kind of like guide what your motivation is to get there, and like all of the furniture in the room changes how your path is to get wherever you want to go. Sometimes the furniture is the end result, and sometimes the furniture is something to walk around. Like I guess to like put it that way, like if you think of the furniture as like both factual, like scenarios, or outcomes or arguments to kind of be avoided. But like the fact that I can't even nail it down that much, and that like none of these metaphors are consistent, is I guess a little bit why what you just have to kind of let wash over you about all
Right.
of this, and kind of understand that there's never going to be a unifying theory of any of this. There's never something that's perfect and has the right answer for every scenario. And like once you kind of like let the indeterminacy of it all kind of like hold on to you, it's actually, I think, kind of a quite freeing thing, and allows the law to be a lot more interesting and a lot more fun. I don't know.
And here's David Botts.
Hi, David.
Hi, I have Easter eggs for both of you, if you
I
can
can't.
find them, Ben.
Okay, you have to make him big, Ben. Ooh,
Oh well, I see the Lisa Page
ooh,
puppet
jelly beans, jelly
peering out,
beans, jelly beans.
and the ant head.
Yes, there you go. So, interested in what are for each of you, what are your favorite Hanukkah or Christmas seasonal movies or pastimes? That's on the personal side, and then on the professional side, what is your preferred or expected Biden administration pick for Attorney General? I observed that Sally Yates today is highly trending on the Twitters.
That's interesting. Do we have any sense of why?
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't see it either. No sense of why.
Twitter just told me Sally Yates is trending.
That's interesting. So there are no good Hanukkah movies. In fact, I mean, I don't think there are. I'm almost like convinced there couldn't be one. But uh, um,
Save
and I,
electricity and play with your dreidel.
I
Sorry.
just like
I don't even
Hanukkah is
understand.
such an overrated, silly holiday. Um, uh, and I just want to point out that the Maccabees were basically Jewish Taliban. They were against, all modernizing things. They opposed secular education, anything, and so I've always had mixed relationship with the Hanukkah. It's sort of like 2,000 years from now, Afghanistan had a pro-Taliban holiday. Doesn't really do it for me. Kate, you're
It's
I have separate thoughts on the Attorney General matter, but let's deal with the movies thing first.
for crying and like actually I don't. It's kind of lumped as as a holiday movie because it ends with Christmas, but I actually think it's kind of much more of that movie. But It's a Wonderful Life by Frank Capra. It's one of my favorite movies. I like weep very hard at the end of that every year. And then I and everyone's saying Die Hard. Die Hard is like a late up and comer in my life, and I love it. I think
It
I'm
is a
actually going to
fun
watch
movie.
it tonight. It is fantastic. I just got my friend Cosmo, who did a 12 days of Die Hard YouTube series in which he did like a literary analysis of like all of the themes of Die Hard for his YouTube channel. It was quite excellent. That I just got him one of those. I don't know if you've seen them. They look like they're like a picture of John McClane, like in the duct. It's like a giant box, and he's just like a picture of him in the duct, like holding a lighter. Anyways, it's fantastic ornament. Yeah.
So who's your pick for AG?
I mean, like, yeah, I think Sally Yates. I mean, just because everyone seems to think I don't have that much skin in the game on any of these people that are being discussed. Uh, Honestly,
So
I mean,
I
and they all seem like they would be like, I mean, just they would do a great job.
so I actually think Sally Yates would be a mistake.
Why?
So for one thing, because it's I think there's a pretty good argument that having somebody who was wrapped up in the last controversy run the Justice Department now just continues the controversy, and having somebody who is a bit detached from that actually puts an end to it. But in addition, I am not the biggest fan of Sally Yates's performance in that period of time. I think, you know, the flip side of the Jim Comey arrogated lots of power to himself criticism of Jim Comey, which has some validity, is that both Sally Yates and Loretta Lynch were very happy to not be responsible for a lot of the major points here, a lot of the major decisions here, and both of them. You had one character who was willing to fall on every grenade, including grenades that were other people's to fall on, and you had two people who fled the room rather than take responsibility for these grenades. And so I don't think the episode particularly shrouded Sally Yates in glory. And I wouldn't. I'm not especially critical of her, but I don't. I don't particularly admire her deputy attorney generalship. Look, among the people who are reportedly actively under consideration, I have lots of preferred people, for in general, but I actually think Jay Johnson is terrific. I knew him very well when he was general counsel at DOD. I thought very highly of his performance as Secretary of Homeland Security. And I also think extremely highly of Lisa Monaco, whom, Lisa is a personal friend and somebody I like very much. She has, Lisa has I think, the broadest and most relevant experience of people who are not Sally Yates. And I also think she has honestly done better in those roles than Sally Yates has. So I would be very happy to see either Jay or Lisa appointed. I think they're both super talented people, and neither of them was involved with that period. And I think moving on from that period would be a good thing. I also think Preet would be an excellent nominee, although he does not appear, according to the press, to be under active consideration. And I continue to believe that the actual right answer to this question is to have Merrick Garland come off the bench and be Attorney General. So that's my actual views on on the
That's
subject.
actually super helpful. I appreciate that.
Mike Godwin, you get the last question today.
Hi. Hi, glad to be here.
Hi.
So, Bill Barr, since we're talking about attorney generals, my question was about Bill Barr. I think one of the things that has creeped us lawyers and a lot of other people out about him is that he combines, Trump's notions of the executive branch with actual competence. So he's actually kind of good at what he does.
He's a very able man.
And and I don't think anybody knows better than the lawfare people how Barr successfully misrepresented the Mueller report in a way that essentially blunted its impact. I mean, maybe Mueller is responsible in his own way for that, but Bill Barr actually created the narrative about the Mueller report, and lawfare spent a year creating a counter narrative, which was great.
Which is to say, we read the text.
Yeah, you read the text. That's correct. You read the text. I read it too. That's how when I read the Barr summary memo, I thought there were creepy things about it. There were things in it that struck me as inconsistent, even internally inconsistent. So they were like red flags. But when you read the text, it's all quite clear what he was up to. But anyway, Bill Barr is discovering what everybody who ever works for Trump discovers, which is that at some point there's nothing good that will come from you working for Trump. There's nothing good that will come from you working for Trump. And Bill Barr, because he refuses to endorse the president's conspiracy theories about the election, is now, being vaguely hinted at the idea that he's out of favor and may be fired sometime before the end of the Trump administration. And honestly, I think it would be great. It couldn't happen to a not nicer fellow than Bill Barr. So I wondered if you folks had similar thoughts, or am I being too mean? That's my.
So I think the answer to that question is it depends on the caprice of Donald Trump. I don't think it matters very much at this point. If somebody were installed on an acting basis for, a month and a half at the Justice Department, I don't think there's that much damage he can do. So I don't think there's a reason to hope that Bill Barr hangs on for some stabilizing reason. I think the more likely and consequential possibility, honestly, is that Barr will fire Chris Wray. That Trump will fire Chris Wray. And the reason that strikes me as more consequential is that I think it would be actually difficult for Biden to replace Chris Wray without shredding once and for all the idea of the FBI director as having a 10-year term. So whereas Barr is gone January 20th, Chris Wray is not. And I think Biden probably would want to replace Chris Wray. And so I think the consequential act would be for Trump in a rage to give Biden the gift of getting rid of Chris Wray, which he probably won't do himself. As to Barr, it would be amusing if it happened. I'm not going to shed a tear over him, but I don't honestly think it matters very much.
We have to wrap up, but there's an interesting question before we do, Ben, happening in the side that Tomas raised and Lauren we're discussing, which is whether or not if Trump pardons a lawyer, it would require them to leave the bar. I mean, initial.
There's a known case in the DC circuit, and it has to do with, God, I'm really pushing my memory here with, let me remember this, but I believe the answer is the bar does not have to treat a pardon as precluding, as requiring readmission. And I believe the case has to do with the lawyer who bribed Congressman Alcee Hastings. And I need to to scratch the inside of my memory, which is to say to do a couple Google searches about that. But I believe the answer is a pardon does not require readmission to the bar, but I don't want to be held to that until I have 24 hours to look it up.
It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, even if you are there, well, I think like a much stronger source than me speculating based on kind of inductive reasoning or deductive reasoning would be to look up the case that you're talking about. But it doesn't strike me as like necessary. It also strikes me as just maybe slightly. It would really maybe depend on which bar you were a member of.
I will report back on this tomorrow. I believe in DC there is case law on this, and I think that it is you don't get back into the bar just because you have a pardon. But let me check.
Who's our mystery guest for tomorrow, Ben?
That is something that is going to remain mysterious. Thank you, Mike Godwin. It is William Borders, who is not going to be our mystery guest tomorrow, but is the gentleman whose case I'm thinking of. And I will report back on it tomorrow. I hope Mike didn't do that from memory and remembers and actually looked it up. And now the Lisa Page puppet is also texting me information about the William Borders case. But I will report on William Borders tomorrow. Exactly.
The facts are different. Okay. Anyway, sorry. We'll talk about this tomorrow.
22 hours and 50 minutes from now. I don't know if there was a pardon involved in that. We're going to find out.
There was, but he actually committed a crime like before he was pardoned and was convicted of the crime. So like that seems to be the necessary part of being disbarred. Like,
yeah, but that wasn't the question.
But
the question was if you were pardoned. I mean, we're not talking about a preemptive pardon here.
Oh, I was assuming we were talking about a preemptive pardon.
Oh, well, then I
that's
don't know.
What I yes.
I'll give
okay.
I'll give you an update on this tomorrow. That'll be 22 hours and 49 minutes from now. And until then, we don't have fun anymore. But Kate does have a dog shirt, and she doesn't have a power outage, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go take some chairs off my deck. So,
see you tomorrow.
Bye then.